everyone, Jules here. Today I'm continuing my astrology topic series and I'm going to be talking about the lunar nodes and the asteroids. So I'm just going to start by talking about the lunar nodes, which are the nodes of the moon. And I'm going to first of all show the symbol for the lunar nodes. This is the symbol for the north node of the moon, and a good way to remember this one is that it looks a little bit like headphones. So here is the north node of the moon, and here is the symbol for the south node of the moon. Now, the lunar nodes are actually a hypothetical point in the sky, and without getting too technical, it is calculated according to the moon's orbit near the ecliptic. So when it is travelling north of the ecliptic, which is what the astronomers call the zodiac band of constellations that the astrologers call the zodiac. When it's travelling north of the ecliptic, it is the north node. When it is travelling south of the ecliptic, it is the south node. So that's just to explain what the lunar nodes are. Now, I'm going to talk about 3 books that I'm recommending about the lunar nodes. And the other thing I want to mention about the north and south node as well is that wherever they are located at a certain time, certain day or part of the year, they are in opposition to each other. So, for example, if the north node of the moon is 15 degrees Aries, the south node will be exactly opposite at 15 degrees Libra. So they're actually like a pair. They actually work in tandem. So I thought I should mention that as well. Now I'm going to recommend 3 books about the lunar nodes and about their meaning and how to understand that in the birth chart, in the natal chart. So I'm going to talk about these 3 books that I think are the best. The one that I particularly like is called The Destiny Book by Helen Hope. I really like this book. This book is not as well known as the second book I'm going to show, but I like this one. It doesn't go into too much detail. The second book I'm going to show is more well known, but it has a lot more detail. So for people who like that, well, you might prefer that book. But I really like this book. I like the meanings for the nodes in each sign in this book. So this is The Destiny Book by Helen Hope. It should still be available. It should still be in print. And it just goes through all of the different signs, all of the nodes in all of the different signs. And there's a chapter on each astrology sign for each of the lunar node positions and different meanings. So I really like this one, The Destiny Book by Helen Hope. And the usual association with the lunar nodes is very much to do with, it has a kind of a karmic association, particularly the south node. The south node is traditionally associated with karma and past life. And there are some types of astrology that really put quite a fated emphasis on the South Node in that way. I actually don't have such a fated meaning personally for the South Node, but in Hindu or Vedic astrology it has a very fated meaning, and it is associated with past life in evolutionary astrology, and I'm going to show one of those books as well in regard to the lunar nodes. Here is the second book that a lot of people may know about. It's quite a popular book, Astrology for the Soul by Jan Spiller. And this would still be in print because it is a really popular book. This has a lot of detail in here for the lunar nodes in the signs and all of the associated meanings, and there is a chart in the front of the book to look and to find the position of the lunar nodes for your birth chart. So a lot of people like that. The first book has the meanings for the lunar nodes. It doesn't have that chart in that first book, but there is a chart for this book. And there is a lot of detail. This one is also the nodes in each of the signs, and it goes by the north node in each of the signs, and also for the corresponding houses for each of the chapters as well. And there's affirmations in here as well. That's why a lot of people really like this book. And there's keywords. A lot of people really like this book. I quite like this book, but it does have a lot of detail. I think a lot of people would probably want to get this book if they can't get the first book that I showed. So this is a very well-known book about the lunar nodes in astrology. Astrology for the Soul by Jan Spiller. Now, the next one is an evolutionary astrology point of view. It's by a really well-known evolutionary astrologer, and I'm going to talk about evolutionary astrology in my series as I go along. I'm going to do some videos on different types of astrology in the series. So this is by Steven Forrest, who is a really well-known evolutionary astrologer. Yesterday's Sky, Astrology and Reincarnation. This book is it's really in regard to the lunar nodes. So I'm not sure if this book is still available or not. If it's not freely available, you could get possibly a second-hand copy, maybe on Amazon, or maybe you could have a look at the website for Steven Forrest. It might be on there, but I think it is a bit difficult to get. I think it may have gone out of print for a while, so I'm not sure. It might be available again now. So for people who particularly want the karma and past life associations with the nodes, and particularly the South Node, evolutionary astrology is very much based on the nodes in particular. So that's where this is coming from. It's quite a good book. It's a little bit more of an intermediate level. The first two books are more accessible and easier to read and understand. I would probably be getting this book after you have got either of those other books about the basic and accessible meanings and understandings of the lunar nodes before I would get this book. But it's just to let you know that this book is around for people who are interested, and especially interested in the karmic and past life association with the lunar nodes. So this is Yesterday's Sky by Stephen Forrest. So that is also all the lunar node positions in the signs, but there's a lot of other details in here as well. I think this book is for someone who is really serious about the karmic and past life association with the nodes. Now the next thing I'm going to talk about are the asteroids. And I'm going to mention a couple of books. One book in particular, and the particular book I want to recommend for this is Asteroid Goddesses by Demetra George and Douglas Block. This is an absolute must for people who are interested in the asteroids in astrology and in the chart. The asteroids are positioned between the planets Mars and Jupiter, and there are thousands of them. But what Demetra George did with this book, and it has been in print for quite a long while and it's still in print, it is really the absolute must for anyone who is interested in asteroids in the chart. And Demetra George has associated the asteroids with goddesses. This book is about 4 particular asteroids in regard to 4 goddesses in particular. She also mentions some other goddesses as well, but the first portion of the book, at least half of the book, would be about the 4 particular asteroids that she has associated with 4 goddesses. And on the cover of the book, this is one of the asteroid goddesses, Ceres or Ceres. Ceres is the goddess who is associated with cereal, and the other name for this goddess is Demeter, which a lot of people would probably know. She's the goddess of the harvest, and she's carrying her scythe or sickle here, and this symbol at the top here is actually the symbol for the asteroid, for Ceres. So this is a great book, and it has the ephemeris, all of the positions of the asteroids, of the 4 asteroids, and the ephemeris ranges from 1930 to 2050. So this is great for anyone looking up the asteroid position for their astrology chart. So this is really the best book around. It's very, very interesting. I have worked with the asteroid goddesses. In regard to my chart, I have found it really quite accurate and quite uncanny, and this is particularly relevant where you have got really close aspects to planets in your chart. So I really like including the asteroids. I don't do it routinely, but at times when I want to look at that, it's really worthwhile. So I wanted to tell people about this book and about asteroids so that you could consider this. I would get familiar with planets first, but it's good to keep in mind when you might be curious and wanting to look at asteroid positions in your chart. So this is Asteroid Goddesses by Demetra George and Douglas Block. And the asteroid, those 4 particular asteroid goddesses are mentioned in this book that I mentioned in my first video for recommended books, Astrology for Yourself. This does include the 4 major asteroids that Demetra George particularly writes about in her Asteroid Goddess book. Because this book is also written by Demetra George and Douglas Block. And I just wanted to show some cards before I finish up in regard to these asteroid goddesses. I'm going to show a card for Demeter, the harvest goddess, which is called Ceres in Demetra George's book. So that is Demeter. These cards come from a deck that I'll show you the box in a moment. I have done a review of this deck in my Oracle deck playlist. Athena is one of them. These are the 4 that she particularly talks about in the book. So she talks about Ceres or Demeter. She talks about Athene or Athena. And in the book she gives Athene or Athena the full name of Pallas Athena. Pallas Athene. Hestia, the goddess Hestia, which is called Vesta, because some of these have either Greek or Roman names. So this is Hestia, which is the goddess of the earth. And Hera, who is known as Juno in the Asteroid Goddess book, who was the wife of Zeus, the god Zeus. So this is Hera. It's called Juno in the Asteroid Goddess book. A little bit of gloss on these cards. And these cards are taken from the Ancient Feminine Wisdom Oracle deck, and as I was saying, there is a review on my channel in the Oracle deck playlist for this if you wanted to find out a bit more. I think it is out of print. It was published by US Games quite a while ago. You might be able to get a copy. I think this book, and there is a little white book in here. This deck would be really good for working with the Asteroid Goddess book if you are able to get it. But if not, the Asteroid Goddess book is really good on its own. And this was created by Kay Steventon, did the artwork, and she also did the artwork for the Spiral Tarot, and she is a qualified astrologer. And the little white book is written by Brian Clark, who is quite a well-known Australian astrologer and mythologist. Kay Steventon is Australian as well. This is a great deck if you're able to get it. Okay, so I'll put the details below the video, and they are the details and information about the lunar nodes and the asteroids of the astrology chart for people who are interested. So thanks for watching. Bye for now.